Welcome, Sean 222. Welcome, welcome. And welcome all to another episode of the infamous Politics or Die. Now, as I promised, I was going to change the theme song. Playing in the background is Little Man by Little Dragon, the Moog remix. Now listen to the lyrics, because of course these songs are not chosen at random and are quite relevant to the subject. This is a tribute to Donald Trump.
You grew high, taller than the middle class.
That's right.
For cash, button in your pockets.
And a great subject today.
Skate high,
of course, picked the day of the show. Hey, how are you doing, Miss Dukes? Welcome.
Make people nervous. Something missing in your smile. Something missing in your smile.
As usual, we're going to wait a few minutes, let everybody gather.
Are you suffering the blues? Tell me why.
And I'm here with a makeshift setup. I threw together real quick to do the show, but I hope the audio quality is good. I hope everything's on point. Let me get started. Of course, you guys know I'm in New York right now, but I'm heading back to Jamaica tomorrow. So I'll be on the plane tomorrow evening. And of course, I will attempt to scope from 35,000 feet. So get your drinks. Because we're going to lean into Donald Trump tonight, boys and girls. Sounding and looking good? Great. But I told you I was going to increase the quality of the broadcast I'm doing. Now that I'm taking it literally serious and going all the way professionally. So this is some of the early steps going in that direction. And this is a makeshift setup, by the way, so I'm glad it's working.
Tell me why, tell me where, tell me why, yeah.
$1 bills sent your hand, little man. Little man, Donald Trump. And unbelievable what he's been up to recently. I mean, beyond the pale. Now, I'm sorry I'm not able to activate the call-in feature so you guys can join in. But that will be remedied in future episodes. I'm going to incorporate the use of Zoom so you can call into the show. And if you guys have any suggestions for background music for the, show start music, let me know. But it has to be a commentary on Donald Trump or, the political scenario in the United States writ large. So I'm open to all suggestions. But I'm going to cut this short now because I do want to make it a quick night. Welcome, Annette. Welcome, one and all. So if you guys want to check this song out, I'll post a link to it to my Twitter feed, but let's get started. So as you can see, the topic tonight is quite apropos to what's been going on with Donald Trump. Now, of course, which could be anything. As you know, his subjects and his, targets are wide afield. But in tonight's broadcast, which I've entitled FutureSquad versus the MAGA machine, for those who've been following, the squad are the 4 minority women that jackass told to go back to where they came from. Of course, completely ignoring the fact that 3 out of them were born right here, right? But it is a statement that people of color have been hearing probably all their lives, whether they're native born or not. And I for sure have had it directed at me. And, the underlying commentary is obvious. It's a way of telling you you don't belong here. Right? And it's a way of relegating you in a sentence to second-class citizenship in the United States. Now, personally, I've just blown this off because, I know my status. I know, how I came here, what right I have to be here, etc. But in truth, I have to register some discomfort. And it's part of the reason why, I do have a sense of relief that I can leave this country when I want to. Not everyone can do that. And this actually may be part of the fundamental misunderstanding that there exists, has existed, and maybe continues to exist to some degree between native-born Africans of the United States, when I say African citizens, colloquially referred to as African Americans, and people of African descent in the Caribbean area, and worldwide, even Africans from Africa who come to the United States. We share this common rejection from the white establishment, and it's often sewn up in that sentence. Go back to where you came from, and unfortunately, we'll even use it on each other, right? At least native-born will use it against perceived immigrants, and it's an undermining, force to the structure that binds the United States together and made this country great. So let's talk about this, in more detail, because I like to name the women. This is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, and Ilhan Omar, and they represent a future that America is rapidly heading towards, which is going to be more female, multiracial, multi-religious, multicultural. And the MAGA group, the MAGA machine, are those primarily, WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant white males who have enjoyed, their time at the helm of the direction and control of the United States since its founding. And they are unwilling to give up power. Now, what Trump did was very clever. In the midst, and let me not even give Trump the credit, because this may be the people pulling his strings. Because by using that attack of telling them, those particular women, and he didn't have to name them, and that was part of it, he didn't literally name them, but it's obvious, again, who he's referring to, that they should go back to their country, make it better before you come here. This idea that you should not criticize the United States, for better or worse, take it or leave it, this kind of attitude, right? Which is ironic, because then they're the same ones who, when the Democrats are in power of anything, will criticize the hell out of it, right? But dare you, the person of color, the immigrant, the other, raise your voice with legitimate concern about what's going on here. Go home. You don't like it, get out. No admission to the fact that the arguments are valid. No admission to the fact that you have a right to pose your, objection to what's going on, so on and so forth. Right? It says a total dehumanizing and second-class relegation of you as a legitimate citizen or resident or immigrant in the United States. You're feeling me? Thank you. And I'm sure some of you who are watching tonight have had this experience in your own past in the United States. This is something I think you cannot escape if you live here long enough. Now, and exactly right. Trump ran on criticizing the United States and saying, well, we need to take... But you see, it is the nature of his criticism that is at fault here. So what is it about these four women? And I'd just like to put the picture up. Because, again, if you look at it, these women are representative of the future. Because, again, there are a lot more women rising now to take political office. They are more effective, I think, than the men. They have been, amazing, really, in their focus on what's necessary to turn this country around politically, socially, to address issues that have been long ignored because they only affected poor, minority, women, etc., right? Who these women, as they say in Jamaica, he who feels it knows, right? And these women have lived that life of oppression, have faced racism, sexism, the glass ceiling, all of the above. So they are best suited to address those problems, to put the focus on the spotlight, and to know how best even to turn it around. So you see, you think maybe the country isn't meant to turn around. Says who, right? As they said in the movie Contact, I think Jodie Foster made the excellent commentary that when she was told by her boss, who, basically cheated her out of opportunity and did what he had to do to advance his own interests over hers unfairly. And he said, well, it's the way the world is. And she said to him, it's funny, I thought the world is what we make of it. And I'm firmly in that camp. We have the power to change what's going on. We have the power to take it back if we so exercise it. Now, as you guys know, Politics or Die, this whole episode was born out of a need to foster change, to open up dialogue where dialogue has not been happening. And out of just my personal shock at learning that the very young people, the very minorities the very, the ones who'd be most affected by where the future is headed, were the ones not participating in guiding the, country to that end. Now, this is Jamaica, ironically, I'm talking about. And the students I'm talking about were not Americans, but were Jamaicans. But that apathy is not, relegated to Jamaica alone. It's happening here in the United States. You talk to a majority of the young, they don't participate. And they'll run excuses, oh, it doesn't matter, so what if I don't vote? And I had to remind them, as I did that night, well, if you don't vote, you're not counted. You don't exist on the political spectrum, right? Your interests are not regarded because you carry no weight. The only weight you truly carry are what you do if you advocate and vote, right? And that's how political operatives are swayed. Now, money given by big business in and of itself does not win elections. It is the power of that money to influence voters, to reach voters, to, grab the mantle in the press, in the media, right? In order to maneuver voters to the booth. Now, if all you do is sit back and throw up your hands and say, I'm not going to participate, that politician is clapping his hands. Thank you. Because now all he has to do is motivate his base. And he's won. And he will serve their interests exclusively. Or the interests of those who are giving him the money to reach that said audience. And once they're in power, they do everything they have to entrench themselves. So gerrymandering. And if I'm using terms that you're unfamiliar with, let me know in the comments and I'll explain them because it's important. I don't want to throw around terminology too much because, again, I don't want you to get lost. And it's very important that when people are talking about these terms and concepts that you're aware of what they represent because it's life or death matters. And this is why it's called politics or die, Politics or your hopes and dreams will die. Get into politics and get involved or your future will die. The world will die, the earth will die, because we're facing challenges now far above and beyond anything we have encountered before as a human race. And the scientists have done their job. I say this every show, and I'm going to keep saying it. The scientists have done their job. They warned us 30 years ago about what we're facing now. And they're warning us now about what we're going to face in the future. And if we don't take it serious, who are we to blame but ourselves? Now, you can't do anything about it individually. I can't do anything about it individually. It is our representatives in the government who are taking our tax dollars who need to use that money to direct it towards the kind of research, investment, and policies that will then immediately address the problem. Now, is this impossible? No. Have we done it before? Yes. Who remembers the ozone hole? Well, guess what? We fixed that shit, right? Hole popped up. Scientists warned. The CFCs we're using in our sprays, that we're using in air conditioning and all this, right, is going to pop a hole in the ozone. The ozone protects us. Scientists said, look, if ozone is not there, ultraviolet is going to hit you. You're going to get cancer. You're going to die. And for those of you old enough, I know I'm dating myself, but you know this, right? That was a problem, a global problem created by global bad habit. And it took a global approach, right? And the participation of countries across the world, and the problem was solved. There is no more ozone hole. Now we face a much greater challenge with global warming, but it's the same remedy. But here we are now, lost in this political battle over control of the future, being waged between the MAGA old guard, the white males, the dominant group in the United States, now facing their own marginalization as a majority bloc in the country. And the sad thing is that, rather than embrace the future and work within the sphere of change, they have now decided, no, we're going to go down tooth and nail. We're going to sell our souls to the devil. We're going to corrupt the politics and the body politic here. We're going to deny, say, for example, Obama, his Supreme Court's pick, so that when they do eventually lose political office, they'll have a hold on the one office, or the one, branch of government, I should say, that is impossible to remove until they're dead. And that's the Supreme Court and a lot of the justices. And they have been very busy at this. While the rest of us have been sort of, distracted, they have been stacking the courts, right? Wholesale sweeps, because they realize that at the end of the day, we still respect the laws and the structure of the United States. I will have to abide by the rulings of these justices, no matter how ridiculous. Now, it is a risky prospect because at some point people may get fed up. And, the Supreme Court, and let me be clear about this, maybe people don't realize, has no authority Oh dear, you know, I just got a low battery. No, I was hoping that wouldn't happen. I may have to end the scope and restart it. And I may do it so that you guys can call in if there's an interest. I apologize for that. You know what? I took a little long in setting up, and I realized I hadn't recharged my iPad. 'Cause I'm using my iPad right now. I'm going to have to switch. But let's get right into it real quick before the power goes. And if it does drop, then, you know, just expect that the show will restart. There'll be a part 2, and apologize for the interrupt. But I want to just drive home the point tonight that the future and the past are going to crash in 2020. Forget Joe Biden. Forget, you know, any of the front runners right now. It is this group, the squad, these women of color, who are the real true focus of the worry of the white males in the Republican Party. This is the change they do not want to see. And they're going to use this, and you mark my words, you heard it from me if you're hearing it for the first time, that this is going to be the focus going into the 2020 election. It's going to be to scare the white majority at the moment, right, until that switches, into saying, look, if you vote for anybody but me, this is what you're going to get. These radical others, these women, these, you know, foreigners, these Muslims,